Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Public Works meeting for Tuesday, September 6th of 2022. I'll call the meeting to order. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 15th, 2022 Board of Public Works meeting. Motion by Mr. Fire, second by Mr. Fisher. Is there any discussion? See none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Item 3 is citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments tonight? Citizen comments, citizen comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is construction updates presented by Chris Hawley, first, street superintendent.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see a full crowd here tonight. Notable accomplishments since we last met. I just want to state that it's the unofficial end of the summer, and there's still plenty of work to do. We'll be pretty much busy till the snow flies. So to start out tonight, corrective asphalt materials was in last week and completed our asphalt rejuvenation maintenance. In all, we treated over 138,000 square yards of pavement this year, pretty comparable to last year. Mill and place projects, I'll get right into those. Things are moving along really well. Cleveland, Cedar to Peach binder was put on today. Still have to black dirt and hydro seed. They'll be pulling driveways, which is scheduled for this week, and putting on the finished layer either later this week or next week. Cedar Grant to Daggy. Note that the gas company is completed in this area, which affected basically Cedar, Grant, Franklin, and Cleveland. The ditching and tiling is going to be completed today or early tomorrow. And with the shaping for the asphalt on that is scheduled for Wednesday next week, 9/14. Hinman, Daggy to Becker, very busy project right now with the gas company finishing up with the maintenance services. Water department is in there right now finishing main, and our crews and theirs are replacing sanitary laterals along with water services. So it's pretty busy out there. Water main started, they got a good week going, and we're starting up to follow up behind them, putting in the sanitary laterals that we talked about that were failing. We found out this summer that there's a lot of I&I problems with the laterals out there, so they're addressing those. So got a really good start on that this week. McMillan west of the viaduct is completed with only shouldering left to do. Chapel, Adams to North Hills pulverizing is now scheduled for the September 29th. Daggy, Willow to Hume pulverizer is also scheduled for the 29th. Jefferson, Smith to the cul-de-sac, the first layer of asphalt and driveways are completed with the final layer coming at the end of this week or early next week. Balboa, 14th to 17th is completed. The asphalt overlay project on Apple over by the Washington School between Daggy and Becker is completed with only striping left to do. Road base reconstruction with new asphalt. Grant, Peach to Cedar is scheduled for shaping on next Wednesday, 9/14, to get ready for paving. Franklin, Peach to Maple, the concrete crew is finishing up with replacing curb ramps, and is also scheduled for shaping on 9/14, which will be next Wednesday, to get ready for paving. Arlington, our crews in the water department are completed out there, and the gas company is in there right now replacing gas main and gas services. And Park and Rec projects, I'm happy to say that the Zoo Road from the Wolves Pen out to the Central Avenue is now paved and with only shouldering left to do. So that's good news. Should cut down on some emails. And Project Wayside parking lot is now scheduled also with the pulverizer on 9/29 with new asphalt to follow shortly after. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Any comments? Mike?
I had a question before. Looks like there's going to be a project between Blodgett and Cleveland. There's an air compressor in the ditch. And I asked what it was about, and they said, Tim could answer that question for me. The neighbors are wondering why somebody's got an air compressor in the ditch.
We Energies is doing a project on Blodgett from Walnut to St. Joe's. We'll find out tomorrow, but I think they're starting this week. Gas mains and services.
Okay. The other one is a lot of people are thanking everybody for the nice job from the Wolf Pen out. It took care of all the ruts and the whatever. You couldn't even drive it towards the end. It was really getting tough, so it's really nice.
Any other comments for Chris? Question? Seeing none, Tom, you have some updates.
Yes, East 17th Street is going well. We got all the curb and gutter in from Vine Avenue over to Maple Avenue. That was completed last week, and tomorrow they plan to start on installation of the sidewalk on that section of 17th Street, and it will probably be a week or so, and they'll have the sidewalk and driveway aprons installed. Then it's a matter of getting ready for asphalt and finishing up with the restoration on that project. So that one's moving along very well. If you take a look at the photos that Dan has up right now, that's the apron end walls and the culvert pipes that were installed on the Lincoln Avenue project, replacing some old 36-inch corrugated metal pipes. Tim Cassie from our office worked with Wood and Marathon counties to coordinate the installation of the pipes, and the end walls were installed by our street department, and they really turned out very nice. They were really well done. So I got to commend the street department on the work that they did with those too. Earth Incorporated is on Daniel's Edition right now, doing some restoration and final punch list items. And Cedar Avenue from 1st Street to 6th Street, lead water surface replacements with the water utility. They're doing probably 30 or so water services, and it sounds like Treeweller will be in this week to do concrete patching on that project. So that's a rough hit on the projects from the engineering division. Any questions?
Any questions for Tom? Okay. It's an information item only, so we'll move on to item number 5, which is consideration of a proposed electric vehicle charging stations on city property, presented by Tom Turchi, city engineer. Tom.
All right, this one, there's going to be no action on this. It's just for information only and to bring you up to speed with kind of the work that has taken place to this point. We'd probably be looking for action for this item on the September 19th Board of Public Works meeting. So we were approached by Wheelers Chevrolet GMC of Marshfield to consider the placement of electric vehicle charging or EV charging stations on city property for general use. To start out on a positive note, Wheelers Chevrolet GMC of Marshfield has been working with General Motors to purchase 5 EV chargers at a cost of $4,447 each for a total of $22,235. The Marshfield Utility Commission has approved up to $30,000 to construct the infrastructure necessary to erect these EV chargers and make any necessary ADA improvements at the proposed locations. These donations account for a total project funding of $52,235. From these donations, there should be no direct cost to the city to get this project started. Following this request from Marshfield Utilities, City of Marshfield, Wheelers Chevrolet, GMC of Marshfield, and General Motors, along with Marshfield Utilities representatives, reviewed a series of sites for the possible placement of 5 EV chargers, which will provide a total of 10 level 2 charging ports for public use. Following locations being proposed are based on ease of access to power, ADA accessibility, availability of lighting at night, and a requirement of being accessible for charging 24/7, 365. And finally, locations that provide a destination for those using EV chargers. The locations chosen by the group are as follows: Wildwood Zoo, the Reading parking lot west of the community center, Central parking lot, which is south of the police department, Frame Park, and S.J. Miller Park. So I have photos of the locations with a little green dot kind of highlighting the location within those locations or those parking lots. So in the state of Wisconsin, municipalities such as the city of Marshfield are not permitted to sell power to customers, so an alternate method will need to be utilized in order to recoup the costs for the power used, future maintenance, and administrative fees for the duration of the agreement with GM. Therefore, an hourly charging fee was chosen as a method to recoup these costs. The following items were taken into consideration for the development of the hourly fee structure for EV charging. Was a monthly meter charge. There was only one location would need that. Electricity charge per kilowatt hour, warranty and future maintenance, from years 4 and 5 or 4 to 10, depending on the length of the contract between the city and General Motors. We'd have $300 per year per unit for a total of $1,500 per year. The initial warranty and maintenance for the first 3 years of this agreement was covered by Wheelers Chevrolet GMC of Marshfield. And then we looked at possible planned cord maintenance for possible cord damage at about $800 per cord. And then there's 10% administrative fee paid to Flow Charging Systems for the management of fleet fee collection through their online app. The city would receive a check from Flow each month for the fees collected by the users of these EV chargers. And we have an example of how we calculated the charges and we per location, and then we did an average to determine what we should start with for that. So based upon these estimated costs, the chargers that are being used approximately 4 hours per day, from the items listed above, the group agreed that $4.50 per hour would be an appropriate fee for the first year. If usage increases, the maintenance and other fixed fees would be divided among a greater number of users. Therefore, the hourly fee charge could be reduced. So I believe a yearly evaluation will be necessary to determine that the hourly fees charged are sufficient to cover the electricity and maintenance costs. Making sure that the parking spaces for EV charging stations remain open, it will be necessary to revise the municipal code to create a designated electric vehicle parking. I have included a proposed wording for that, starting a new section, 8.83, electric vehicle parking. And it's basically a note that no operator of any vehicle other than electric vehicle shall stop, stand, or park upon any parking space specifically marked or reserved for electric vehicles only, as designated by the Board of Public Works. Again, this is a special note that this is an introduction to the EV chargers on city property. Since I was not able to obtain any type of agreement at this time for review by our city attorney or by this board, again, we'll be requesting action for this on September 19th at that Board of Public Works meeting. We will also be bringing this to the Parks, Rec, and Forestry committee meetings on the 15th, so that they can see this, because the charges will be placed in some of those locations. And then finally, for a final decision, we'd be looking at that being approved by the Common Council on September 27th, if all the pieces fit together. So basically, this is an introduction to placing EV chargers on the city property. Are there any questions based upon the information I supplied? Level 2 charger puts out 20 kilowatts per hour, which is about 10 to 20 miles of charging per hour that it's plugged in. So basically, if you wanted a full charge, you're probably looking at 10 to 15 hours for a full charge for a car sitting there. What we're looking at is people coming, visiting like the SG Miller Park and visiting one of our baseball games and charging for 3 or 4 hours as they're sitting there. We may see that there may be more use of this, which that would help bring the overall cost down. I did take a look in a level 3 charger, which is not being offered as part of this. To purchase one of those is roughly $50,000 to $80,000, and the infrastructure would be in the $20,000 to $50,000 probably to get it to one of those locations. So recouping those costs would be pretty extensive, although the federal government does have some 80-20 grants for doing something like that.
Tom, regarding the parking, are some of these spaces restricted for overnight parking in some of the parks and things that we have to look at that and maybe allow parking overnight in those areas?
We may have to make adjustments to allow for longer term parking for vehicles that are using those charging ports, yes. Because I think some of the lots are restricted to 3 hours.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to item number 6, consideration of purchase of speed humps for West 17th Street. Again, presented by Tom Turchi.
All right, we kind of went through this last week, and we talked about the various pieces of things that the city does for trying to reduce traffic speeds and make things safer for pedestrians. And many of those things like radar speed sign that we put out, the flashing beacons and the RFBs that we have, and then increased enforcement as well as additional speed limit signs. But one of the things we did talk about in the last meeting was the traffic calming method using speed humps. Speed humps are rounded, raised sections that reduce drivers typically down to 10 to 20 miles an hour. And these are not the same as a speed hump, which is, or a speed bump, which is 3 to 5 miles an hour. So we took a look at the information on these, and at the last meeting, they wanted some additional traffic studies done on 17th Street before a decision was made. So we took a look at the last 5 years of traffic crashes that we had on this section of East 17th Street between Balboa Avenue and Rodas Avenue. And we had three crashes. One was a side swipe with a parked vehicle. The other one was a single vehicle and a street sign. And finally, we had a vehicle that was backing out of a driveway into a parked vehicle. So if you take a look at traffic crashes, none of these are significant enough to really identify as a problem on that street. We also took and set out 2 traffic counters, which were placed from August 17th to August 23rd, and they were located midpoint between Locust and Adams, and then between Adams and Balboa. And we recovered traffic volumes in the 85th percentile speeds for those locations. So the west location, Balboa to Adams, had 847 vehicles per day on average, and the 85th percentile speed was 26.8 miles per hour, which was 11.8 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. The east location, which is Adams to Locust, had 758 vehicles per day, and the 85th percentile speed was 26.1 miles per hour, or 11.1 over the posted speed limit. So from that, we kind of recommended the city purchase 3 speed humps and signage at a cost of $13,800 for the remainder of the 2022 season that be placed on West 17th Street by Wildwood Park. And these could be located in other locations throughout the city as the board felt necessary in future years. Any questions on this?
I'll entertain a motion. Okay, I'll make a motion then to approve the purchase of speed humps for West 17th Street or speed humps for the city, and place them on 17th Street for the remainder of the summer. A second by Mr. Fisher. Any discussion now?
Yeah.
Mr. Fire.
The speed limit on that section is 15 miles an hour now, right?
Yes.
So I'm not in favor of these because I consider that in this community, you're going to open up something. There's going to be a lot of them people are going to want. And I don't think that the citizens are going to be happy. If you got a 25 mile an hour speed limit now, and if you put a hump in, what would the street drop down to then? 15, 20? I can see this. Well, I'm not going to vote for this. I stated that the last meeting.
And this is something that I kind of read in IT, is that it's kind of like excessive stop signs. You'll get people that may speed in between those locations. You do get a little bit more pollution because people are accelerating when they leave those locations, but they do actually kind of work to reduce speeds at where those humps are located.
Mike?
How many humps are we actually talking about? Is it just the 2 that I see on that map?
There's
the
gonna
Humpty
be,
Hump?
no, those were the locations of the counters I put out. So yeah, they were looking at putting 3 out there.
Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. I have one simple question. Where is this money coming from? Is this coming from budgeted funds? Where is it coming from?
We probably have to take out of traffic. We did not have this budgeted with our phone.
Dan?
Yeah, I can take a shot at that. So we have a traffic control budget that pays for any repairs we have for traffic signals and signage and painting and all that. Right now, that budget looks to be in okay shape, but we're only 7/12 of the way through our budget year with purchases through the end of July. So I think we could purchase it initially, but we'd have to watch that budget through the end of the year to see if there's a need for a budget resolution before the end of the year to make up the difference.
Another question.
Mr. Ross?
So these get taken off in the winter so they can plow. So what's going to make the cars slow down during the winter when the streets are plowed?
Tom?
They're basically the snow, but there's not as many kids using this park in the wintertime as there are in the summer. Yeah, you wouldn't have anything there for the winter.
Thank you. Do we have, and I assume I know the answer to this, but do we have any policy whatsoever in how we distribute these type of people?
Again, Tom?
No, actually, this will be the first, if the board chooses to purchase them, this will be the first time we've used them. And it may be that next year you have requests in other neighborhoods, and then maybe we take a look at traffic speeds and volumes or accident occurrences at those locations.
Just one follow-up comment. Thank you. I'm for this, but I do think Alderman Fire does make a good point as far as, you know, you could be opening this up where other parts of the community want to have this. When you have a 25 mile per hour, do you really want that? So I'm for this because I do think there's a need on West 17th Street, but I do think it would be, you know, I think it would be good for the city to try and come up with some type of policy or structure of how do we fairly, or how do we distribute these and not open up, for lack of a better word, Pandora's box, make it so that we have these all over the city where they should.
I'll respond to part of that is that these are really designated for speeds that are 10 to 15 miles an hour. So I think that that's going to limit the requests. If somebody in a 25 mile an hour zone wants to use something like this, you're going to have to say, sorry, these aren't designed for that area. We'll have to find some other enforcement method in those areas. I was surprised at the speeds that were recorded down by the park. That's why I requested it, to find out exactly what the speeds were. 11 miles an hour over in a 25 zone or a 35 zone is really not a significant overage, but when you get into a 15 mile per hour zone, such as by our parks and schools, you can look at it two ways. You're almost double the speed limit, or you're 10 miles over. So I think that that's a dangerous speed in those areas. I've went down and checked out that park area. It's a very busy area right in that street. There's a lot of cars parked on the street. There's quite a few signs that it just seems like a cluttered area down there. And I think that a lot of people that are driving through that area are looking for parking. They're looking for the entrances to the park, and they're maybe not paying close attention to any children that may run out into the street, or even pedestrians crossing the street. So I think that it's warranted to put out a reminder to people to slow down. If they have to slow down to 10 miles an hour from 15 miles per hour that they're supposed to be driving, that's not a really big inconvenience for a driver. Mike?
Just out of curiosity, what are all the cars that park on that road from? Are they basically park use? Because we have those parking lots. One thing that may be able to help is putting up some no parking signs along that area, because those lots are typically not full. And then a second item that I just thought about is, would a fence be appropriate at the edge of that sidewalk by the playground area that could potentially stop kids running out. I'm assuming the big concern would be children running out between cars. And that would be hard to see until they got there, but just some different approaches to it.
You know, we've talked about fences in various locations, like the Neander zone between Wenzel Family Plaza and the post office, where we used to have people crossing mid-block all the time. When the parking lot was located over there, fences do cost quite a bit when you're putting up that volume of fence. I would imagine it's a lot more expensive than what you have here. Are we seeing kids that are running out into the street with park location? I'm not sure. You know, I couldn't tell you who's parking there and why, because that was never part of the study. We didn't ask any questions on that. But
Any further questions? Comments? Okay, the motion is to, if I can remember my own motion, the motion is to purchase 3 speed humps and to place them on 17th Street next to Wildwood Park for the remainder of the summer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Appears the noes have it, so that motion fails. Monday. My screen went black. Item number 7 is recommended items for future agenda. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Fire, second. By Mike? Okay, I couldn't see whose hand it was that was going up there. We're adjourned.